For a long time, we don't know much about Hakari. That is, until all chaos breaks loose and he's needed for the culling game that Kenjaku is triggered. So if you want to find out more about the rebellious third year, this is the right place. So before the series, we hear more about all his mischief before ever seeing Kinji Hakari, like how he repeated a grade in junior high. And after that, he joined Jujutsu Tech and was suspended for his behavior towards a higher up. What we don't know right away is that it was a specific higher up who is conservative, as most are. So Hakari disagreed with their way of seeing things and punched them. If you know how strong he is and how stubborn he could be, you know he was holding back. Before this, Hakari helped out during Geto's infamous night parade of 100 demons to ensure the amount of casualties stayed low. Even in the flashback we see during Jujutsu Kaisen 0, Hakari isn't shown to us yet. Whether that was because Gege was purposely hiding him from fans or created him after writing that section of the story, who knows, but it's probably the former. Whatever the case, after being suspended for a while, he needed something to do. And obviously that meant Hakari made his own underground fight club, right? He named it Gachinko, for reasons that became obvious when you know Hakari's domain expansion. Around the same time, or maybe while at Jujutsu Tech, he started dating fellow student Kirara, who caused a lot of confusion among readers due to their appearance. And although their friendship is never explicitly confirmed, their interactions heavily imply it's romantic in nature. I mean, come on. After Yuji and company are tricked into facing a finger bearer alone, Gojo briefly mentions that Akotsu and Hakari could surpass him eventually, given enough time, once more hyping up the mysterious third-year students. But we still don't even get a glimpse of him until a few life-threatening arcs later. In the perfect preparation arc, with Kenjaku having started his culling game, the Jujutsu world has to ready themselves to either participate or avoid further conflict. Meanwhile, Hakari's still running his fight club with no idea about what had happened, and who was killed or sealed. But once Yuji and Megumi arrive to ask for his help, they realize Panda is already there as a participant, and likely with a similar idea. But Hakari senses something's off and sends Kirara to intercept Megumi while he faces Yuji, assuming they're representing Jujutsu High and want to shut down his illegal club. After facing the ever straightforward Yuji and his refusal to fight back no matter the attack, he gives in and hears them out. Hakari's shocked to find out that Gojo's been sealed and their principal Masamichi was executed as ordered by the higher-ups. He agrees to join them, and in exchange he wants Megumi, the next leader of the Zenin clan, to legalize his gambling activities through his influence. Hakari decides to team up with Panda again, but this time to enter a colony and to face Hajime Kashimo, who currently has the most points in that colony. As a gambler, of course he'd want to take his chances against the likely most dangerous player to face off with. On their end, Yuji and Megumi go into a different colony in search of Higuruma, who has also been racking up points. Meanwhile, Hakari's partner, Kirara, stays on the outside as a precaution and a means to keep in contact, since there's no way to communicate with the outside once entering the game. They need to make sure Yuta and the others know what's going on. During the culling game itself, just like the first-year students involved, Hakari and Panda are split up instantly upon entering Tokyo No. 2 colony. Near an amusement park, Hakari ends up meeting a French manga artist hopeful named Charles Bernard. Typical to many who'd be in the situation, Charles feels pessimistic and doesn't have any reason to fight Hakari at first. So he asks Hakari to find a way to inspire violence in him, which he does by insulting his dreams and manga. He manages to make Charles cry, so mission accomplished? After Charles summons a giant pen as a cursed tool and recites poems and sees a manga of future actions, Hakari reveals the most convoluted curse technique and domain expansion that Gege could ever concoct. And yes, it was on purpose. While we're on the topic, let's break down what idle death gamble is. The short description would be that it's a Japanese gambling machine with a chance of making him invulnerable. The long version is that it's based on a real pachinko game, or patchy slot, and has elements of a romance manga built within it. For Hakari to win, he has to get 3 symbols and trigger the private pure love train event. This gives him unlimited cursed energy, and automatically applied reverse cursed energy to heal any injuries, including any mortal ones. Not only that, but it lasts as long as the theme plays for the event, which is 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The chance of him hitting the jackpot effect is 1 in 239, so it's not guaranteed. But it's one of the fastest domain expansions to launch since it's ready in 0.2 seconds, with all the rules transmitted into his opponent's brain in seconds. But this also means that Hakari's domain would probably trigger before most enemies could. Of course, there are other symbols within the game that help Hakari to attack, but nothing gives as much of a boost as the jackpot. I won't get into all the symbols and characters and how they interact because it's just too much information for the sake of confusing people and likely the people stuck in the domain. And to be honest, this stuff doesn't really happen. It mainly just comes down to Hakari hitting the jackpot and getting unlimited cursed energy. And let's not forget that once Hakari hits the jackpot scenario, he has a 20% chance of hitting it again. This makes sense since it's his domain, and it's meant to give him the advantage. But at the same time, it includes all the chance and gambling aspects that make Hakari excited. Back to the events of the arc, the gambler beats the artist but doesn't kill him, knowing that he's just a normal dude who just got pulled into the game. Honestly, Hakari didn't even want to fight Charles in the first place. And with no time to relax, Hakari stumbles across a barely alive Panda who needs saving from Hajime Kashimo. Whether to avenge Panda or just because he likes a challenge, Hakari takes on Kashimo next, who refuses to use his curse technique or domain as he's saving it for his next encounter with Sukuna. But the unpredictability of Hakari's domain and the chances of being in his favor helps to match the ancient sorcerer's electrified cursed energy. In the midst of the fight, Hakari offers Kashimo a chance to gain info on Sukuna, but to offer up his point should he lose to Hakari. After some insane luck and near-death moments, Hakari and Kashimo essentially fight to a stalemate, with Hakari ultimately bringing Kashimo to the Jujutsu side, at least temporarily, just so that he has the opportunity to fight against Sukuna. Panda worries that Kashimo will inevitably harm Yuji, who's housing Sukuna, but Hakari convinces him that it'll be fine. With his luck, I think I'd trust Hakari too. Afterwards, Hakari chats with Charles again, realizing that the artist had been worrying for nothing, and kicks some sense into him. Then Momo passes on some news about the rules, and what else has been going on in the other colonies. When the threat of the culling game is behind them, Hakari meets up with the rest of the Jujutsu team, and they discuss how they're going to free Gojo at long last. Going forward into the Shinjuku battle against Sukuna, as planned without any issues, Gojo is freed. It's almost laughably easy once Angel gets involved. But the problem is where Gojo disappears as soon as he's out of the box. It turns out he's planning the big fight with Sukuna for December 24th. It's the anniversary of Geto's death, since he intends to kill Kinjaku using his friend's body that same day. This gives them a month's time to train and exchange info, or do replacement training thanks to Yui's technique in preparation. After that's decided, they plan who will face Sukuna if Gojo dies, just in case that comes to pass. But also, who will go after Kinjaku to avoid any surprise attacks by him? On the day of the fight to end all fights, everyone shows up to support Gojo and see him off. When the worst comes to pass, the planned lineup starts to shift forward, and Hakari deals with Urarame when he tries to intercept and help Sukuna. Once again, he's against an ancient sorcerer with a lot of experience and unusual techniques. When Sukuna is defeated and chooses to disappear as a curse, Hakari doesn't need to keep facing Urarame, who ends themselves too, since they no longer have their master around. I'm sure he was glad for that as well. After the major threat is gone in the form of Sukuna and Kinjaku, and everyone is healing up, the gang of students berate Yuta for all his poor decisions. There were a few instances that his lax attitude made the fight more difficult than it needed to be. But after it can get too negative, Hakari also thanks Yuta for Rika's help, keeping them shielded. Even though he wishes he could have fought Sukuna with everyone else, he has to admit that Urarame was a hard opponent in his own way. Later on, Hakari's back in the school uniform alongside Kirara as they seem to head into a brighter future. Maybe now that the higher-ups are gone, he is less likely to be suspended again before he can graduate. And that is the entire story of Kinji Hakari. Like the video if you liked it, guys, and subscribe for more Jujutsu Kaisen content like this.